If you're watching this video, that probably means that you are a student looking to improve your academic writing, or maybe you just want to understand what it means to write academically. Either way, this video is for you. To make this concept a little easier to understand, I've broken it down into 4 sections that will all build on each other. Together, we're going to take a look at the who, the what, the how, and why of academic writing. Who you're writing for, what sets academic writing apart from other types of writing, how to write effectively in the academic style, and why you're writing academically at all. Let's start with the who. You may recall from essay writing in past English classes the importance of knowing who you are writing for, or your audience, so that you can change aspects of your writing to most effectively achieve your goal with that audience. In this very oversimplified example, let's take these 2 groups of people, a blue audience and a red audience. And in this case, your audience is the blue audience. In this essay that you've written over here, you've employed a variety of different writing strategies that have left both audiences with a kind of neutral stance on your paper. Now maybe they didn't understand it, maybe they don't agree with it, but either way, if you want to reach your goal with your target audience, you are going to want to change these lines of reasoning or language or whatever it may be that your blue audience can't relate to as much, and to make it better match what they would either understand or agree with, and by that way you'd achieve your goal with your target audience. Diction, usage of ethos, pathos, and logos, tone, structure, syntax, all of that can be subject to change depending on who your audience is and what they would best respond to. So, who is your audience? To understand who your audience is, you first need to understand the concept of a discourse community. Author John Swales gives a reliable guide to identifying discourse communities in his 1990 book, Genre Analysis, English in Academic and Research Settings, sometimes just referred to as genre analysis. According to Swales, all discourse communities will have 6 defining characteristics. In his words, a discourse community will have a broadly agreed upon set of common goals, mechanisms of intercommunication among its members, participatory mechanisms to provide information and feedback, 1 or more genres to utilize in the communicative furtherance of his aims, specific lexis, and a threshold of members with a suitable degree of relevant content and discoursal expertise. Let's break down each of these characteristics. The first characteristic has members of the discourse community working some type or types of shared goals. The second characteristic refers to how these members participate in the community. This can be done via meetings, like clubs, phone calls, letters, conversations, anything that allows members to communicate on a regular basis. The third refers to the purpose of any meetings or correspondence, which is to provide information and feedback relating to the common goals of the group. The fourth notes how discourse communities will adopt and use at least 1 or more genres of discourse that operate based on shared conventions, or guidelines. These conventions are accepted by the greater discourse community as a whole, and members are expected to abide by them. Now keep that one in mind, especially. The fifth characteristic puts an emphasis on specific lexis, terminology specific to the discipline or interest of the community. Think like jargon. Finally, the sixth characteristic establishes that the membership of a discourse community will be constantly changing as old members leave and new members join, and as such, the members will display a wide range of expertise. For the purposes of this video, your audience is an academic discourse community. Academic discourse communities are usually focused in one discipline. For example, let's take the American Meteorological Society. Looking at their website, we can see their common goals, methods of participation, goals of their commissions, shared conventions within the genres they use, a hint into their lexis, and how members join their community. Every single box checked. Whoever your exact audience is, you are writing to join a discussion with scholars with a wide range of experience in any specific discipline, which can feel very intimidating. However, you have just as much of a right to join the academic discussion, even if your writing isn't as sophisticated as some more experienced members. Remember that discourse communities have members at every level, and that learning how to write well in an academic setting will take time and practice, and right now, you're taking the first step, or at least you are in the process of taking your first step, which is great. Okay, so now that we know who your audience is, let's take a look at the what from earlier. What is academic writing, and what makes a written work academic? Think about what academic means. Academic is defined as relating to education and scholarship. and in this case it is a style of writing relating to education and scholarship. Think back to the fourth characteristic of a discourse community, conventions and genre. One of the conventions of an academic discourse community is communicating an academic writing style, whether that genre is a lab report, an informational article, a research paper, or so on. Let's look at some characteristics of a writing style to help us define what an academic writing style will look like. Word choice, structure, and tone are all important components of any writing style. Generally, academic writers will utilize specific diction, remember like the Lexis from earlier, structure their product in an organized and logical way, and use a formal tone. Another important aspect of this convention is writing with authority. By nature, academic writing needs to be authoritative, and we will take a look at that concept a bit more in the next section. Alright, so, who we are writing to? Check. What are we writing? Check. So, how do we write? To start off this discussion, we're going to jump right back into where we left off the last section, writing with authority. In our 2014 article titled, Navigating Authority in Coursework and Life, an Unofficial Guide for Fellow Students, author Willa Maddox provides a definition for the type of authority we're going to be trying to establish. Authority under this context is the ability to use your knowledge within a subject matter, or domain knowledge, to communicate your own position or claims to others in a manner so that it becomes part of the continued conversation regarding that subject matter. So, based on this, therefore, an author, especially one of a scholarly essay or article, usually would seek to be authoritative to their audience as they insert their submission into the general academic conversation about any given topic. The hypothetical author in this scenario is you. Well, in order to write effectively and with authority, we need to take a step back and think about how we are reading. Reading is a skill most of us have had since we were young, but in order to write with authority in an academic discourse community, we need to read like we are in an academic discourse community. As you read your source material, take note of the author and the claims they make. Reflect on your own view of their claims and compare how they align with or conflict with other authors' claims on the same subject. You want to consider as many different sides to an issue as is possible, as recognizing different viewpoints in your writing will establish more credibility to your audience and add maturity to your writing. As an example, imagine you are beginning to write a paper analyzing the different themes within Alfred Lord Tennyson's poem, The Kraken. If you are unfamiliar, you can pause and read the poem here. Take a second to think about your initial interpretation of the poem, and even write it down if you need to. Now, in your research, you have come across this excerpt from an article written by Fredericka Schmadel, alumnus of Indiana University, that you want to include as a source in your paper. And it reads, thus, the Kraken is despairingly unchristian, illustrating hope's antithesis in the depths of age-old monstrousness, ever elusive but hideous in its power. No one's adversary, the Kraken seems outside the normal course of life, even battening on worms, those death symbols, until it rises to appear for a moment in its own death. Tennyson may be depicting the death of hopelessness and despair in this poem, combining many negatives in the sea monster no one has ever seen alive to build a frail, tentative positive. The Kraken's roar, totally impossible biologically unless it refers to the boiling sound of water in its wake as it rises, may be a reference to the poet's own roar protest against the perceived meaninglessness of life that would bring forth such a creature and such a death. Now, after reading this, ask yourself, how did your interpretation compare to Schmadel's? Did you agree, disagree, or somewhere in between? Whatever your answer is, great. Remember, we are joining in conversation and sharing ideas. While Schmadel put together an excellent analysis, her claims of the Kraken representing hopelessness, despair, and the meaninglessness of life is just another interpretation of Lord Tennyson's poem. You do not need to take her word as fact, and are actually encouraged not to do so. This was simply her contribution to the discussion, and your paper is yet another contribution. Authors Anne M. Penrose and Cheryl Geisler emphasize the importance of reading text as collections of claims that could be challenged or expanded upon in an academic discussion. They defined 4 principles that guide an authoritative writer in their reading. Texts are authored. Authors present knowledge in the form of claims. Knowledge claims can conflict, and knowledge claims can be tested. Reading with these guidelines will also help your own claims become more solid for yourself. Even if your claims change, they are shifting based on all the prior knowledge you've accumulated, and you can find confidence in that. After all, one of the definitions of authority is just the confidence resulting from personal expertise. Recognize that while you may be new to the subject, your expertise has begun to develop as you have studied it. It is difficult to write with confidence on a topic you are unfamiliar with, but through study you do have more knowledge on it than you did before, and your writing can reflect that confidence. Confidence writing techniques can also not be understated when it comes to writing with authority, and that will come with practice. The writing should still sound like you, but just a more confident version of you, and you might not be able to perfect their writing style quickly, but that's okay. Give it time and keep reading with the intention to join the discussion. Okay, so now we've learned who you're writing to, what academic writing is, and how to write academically. Keeping all of that in mind, now let's discuss why. Why are you writing academically? What is your purpose? So, think about the past 3 sections and what we've discussed. An academic discourse community communicates through genres and their conventions, and one of these major conventions is simply writing in the academic style. Using it is respectful to the other members. Having an academic style of writing, and by extension reading, is necessary to join the discussion with authority. It's as simple as that. You may have other more specific goals depending on who you're writing to and what you're writing about, but ultimately the purpose of the academic writing style is to share ideas with other academics in their language, and by practicing, it'll become yours too. And there you go, a condensed guide to writing within an academic discourse community. Everything was important, but if you only took away 2 ideas from this video, I would hope it would be that A, you are writing to join an academic discussion that you do have a place in, even though you're new, and that B, you need to read with the intention of joining the conversation. In my opinion, these 2 concepts are the key to finding your academic voice. So, thanks for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Good luck!